are few games that involve team play as much as Among Us. In fact, I'd say playing as a team is closely tied to the game's core design. This is true regardless if you're a crewmate or an imposter. If you're a crewmate, you of course need to collaborate with your team to make sure that you're eliminating imposters as well as completing tasks. And as imposter, you need to make sure that you're collaborating, that way you can eliminate people at opportune times to deceive town and make sure that you're coming out with the win. Speaking of wins, most of your success or failure in this game will stem directly from your interactions with the other players. However, there are some things that you can do on your end to improve your odds of winning. Namely, playing Among Us on PC with BlueStacks nets you an inherent advantage since you'll be able to play on a much larger screen than one on your phone, while also controlling your character with your keyboard, allowing you to get around and complete tasks much faster and more efficiently. Furthermore, as we mentioned in our beginner's guide, you also get to play the game on PC for free, whereas you'd usually have to pay for the Steam version. And hey, it might only be $5, but that's $5 you get to keep in your pocket. You can check out that installation guide with a link down below in the description. In this guide, however, we'll be taking a deeper dive on things that you can achieve by playing Among Us on BlueStacks, as well as we'll be giving you some useful tips and tricks for your general gameplay. My name is Dylan J. Fox, and here's how to win every match of Among Us with BlueStacks. Move around easier with the key mapping tool. One of the best features of BlueStacks is its key mapping tool, which gives you the ability to control all your favorite mobile games using your mouse and keyboard. This means that instead of swiping and tapping on your phone screen to control the action, you'd be using your PC peripherals with much better success and precision. Simply put, the key mapping tool is a BlueStacks feature that allows you to create custom control schemes for any mobile game. At its most basic, you can walk around the map using the WASD keys and interact with objects using other buttons. However, this feature also allows you to freely place additional shortcuts and bindings on any part of the screen, giving you greater control over your game using only your keyboard. For Among Us, this means that while you have superior control in game, you can also enjoy better navigation while browsing menus or completing certain tasks. As you continue to play and grow familiarized with the different assignments you need to complete in every match, you can add a few more shortcuts to the screen that will allow you to complete most tasks using your keyboard, saving you precious time and bringing you much closer to victory. To access the key mapping tool, you simply need to run the game and press Ctrl-Shift-A. In this screen, you can freely modify the existing bindings, or even add new ones by dragging the predefined functions on the rightmost panel to any part of the screen and linking them to a button on your mouse and keyboard. We recommend taking a little bit of time to familiarize yourself with the keyboard controls, after which you'll have a much easier time getting around the different maps and become a much better crewmate or imposter because of it. Automate certain repetitive tasks with the macro recorder. Now when it comes to the meat and potatoes of the actual game, most of the fun in Among Us doesn't come from completing the different assignments that you're given as a crewmate or imposter, but from the interactions with other players and the intrigue as you try to stay alive and figure out who the murderers are. As a crewmate, the tasks themselves are a bit on the simple side, if not a bit repetitive. From swiping your keycard on consoles, filling up containers to refuel the engine, and cleaning out trash chutes, to scanning the biometrics on medbay or diverting the power to certain rooms, these things get really repetitive really quick. Almost all the tasks are relatively simple to complete, often just taking 1 or 2 clicks. Nevertheless, you'll always want to do it as fast as possible in order to stay focused on figuring out who the killer is. After all, you can't really see what's going on if you're stuck interacting with the console or control panel. So I've given you some pretty general tips as to how to play with BlueStacks, but here are some more insightful tips as to how to play the game directly. And while the fun of the game is mostly in its journey and not so much the destination, there are a few tips you can follow to improve your odds of success. Tips and tricks for crewmates. A good way to orient yourself around the ship, at least in the beginning, is to follow the yellow arrow that points you to the closest objective. That way you don't have to rely on your map as often, and you can keep your eyes peeled for the killer. My second piece of advice for you as a crewmate would be to try to complete visual tasks in view of other crewmates to prove your innocence, since of course imposters can't complete these tasks. Some visual assignments include clear asteroids, submit scan, prime shields, and empty garbage. Similarly, pay attention if players are trying to fake completing these tasks, since it'll most likely indicate that they're the imposter, and if you do spot this, make sure to call for an emergency meeting immediately. And in that same vein, just make sure to note that if you see somebody completing a visual task and they've seen you complete one as well, stick together as much as possible. You both prove your innocence and can collaborate in finding the killer. Tips for an imposter. We're going to piggyback off our last entry for the crewmates, but don't ever try to fake completing a visual task, especially not in view of another crewmate, since it's a dead giveaway to your true identity. You want to be able to build up trust with the crew, and a good way to do this is by fixing a room that you've sabotaged. By taking this route, if you sabotage the lights, you can waltz on over to the electrical room and fix them yourself. This should buy you a bit of trust from the other crewmates and make it easier for them to be targets. Speaking of targets, you're going to want to avoid following crewmates too much, as they might get suspicious and call for an emergency meeting to eject you from the game if you're acting a bit sus. As you observe their actions, however, you're going to want to try to build a case against them to shift the blame on them instead of you. By this idea, make sure to accuse them of closing doors or of loitering in rooms without really doing anything. One thing to keep in mind is that this can work against you at times if there are witnesses to disprove your claims. Regardless, if you play it cool, you can still get away with falsely accusing someone by claiming it was a mistake. My last big piece of advice for you imposters is to try to sabotage the O2 or reactor rooms. By doing this, it separates the crew out and allows you to pick off the ones that don't rush to fix them. These two rooms are important since you will automatically win if the crew doesn't fix them in time, guaranteeing that at least one member will swing by to fix them. All that being said, these are just a few tips and tricks that you could use in Among Us to win every match. And one last thing to remember is that the most important part is to always keep your cool, both to prove your innocence as a crewmate or to shift the blame on others as an imposter. However, feel free to share your own tips in the comments section down below, and while you're down there, give us a subscribe if you want to see some more mobile gameplay and or any guides on how to play games with BlueStacks. My name is Dylan J. Fox, and I will catch you in the next BlueStacks video.